or the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. Why your marketing is not working. And it's not the marketing's fault. That is our main topic for today. And no other than Mr. Dan Crask.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome, welcome, Mr. Dan on Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
You bet. My name is Dan Crask. I'm the founder of Brand Shepherd. We're a brand building agency, and we've been around as of this year. We've been around for 20 years. We got our start in 2006, and so it's been an honor to work with brands of all sizes, scales, and ages to guide them to the kind of clarity that helps them thrive.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And aside from founder of Brand Shepherd and building agency, you're the creator of the Vibe, Tribe, and Why and Brand Clarity Framework, isn't it?
Yeah. That this is the culmination of many years of work with a lot of different types of brands, everything from corporate conglomerates like Procter and Gamble, Johnson and Johnson, and so on, to a lot of startups and a lot of businesses in between those two ends of the spectrum. And basically, I've narrowed down what a brand is down to three things, which is the vibe, tribe, and why, or your brand's presence, people, and purpose. And from those three things, once you get clear and gain clarity on those three things, then I believe that you can address just about anything within your brand.
So, Mr. Dan, our topic is a bold claim. Your marketing is not failing because of the marketing. It's failing because of something deeper. If the tactics themselves are the problem, or what is and why do we keep blaming the channels instead of examining the foundation?
Well, marketing does present a shiny object to assign a lot of blame to. And so it's understandable and it's even reasonable to first look at marketing because that's the thing that's easily to measure. I mean, obviously, we have all kinds of analytics and KPIs and different types of metrics we can look to and say, this marketing is working, this marketing is not working, and so it's very understandable to look to marketing. But if if that keeps happening, if marketing keeps missing the mark, pun intended, then it's worth looking deeper and looking to the source beneath the marketing. And I believe it's brand. I'll even make a more bold claim and say that the era of marketing is over. We exited that, I think, in 2024 ish. And
Mhm.
since last year and definitely into this year, we have been firmly in the era of brand. And I would cite last year's shining examples here in the United States of Cracker Barrel being the most obvious example where they did not have a marketing debacle, they had a brand debacle where it wasn't even so much that the logo was rejected, but it was that the logo represented a shift in the brand's vibe that their tribe rejected because they felt they weren't being true to their why. That's vibe, tribe, and why in action. In action in the negative part, but I believe Cracker Barrel redeemed themselves by humbling themselves, reading the room, uh, clamoring to relevance, and doing the right thing by just backing off and sticking with what people wanted. And that was a brand problem. And keep in mind, people reacted to a brand style guide that had been released. They didn't even get to marketing. Not a single ad had ran yet. Just an unveiling of a brand style guide with new messaging and some new storefronts. And so that to me is evidence. There's a bunch of other examples that happened last year, but that to me is an example of the deeper issues that are at play here as we're now firmly in the era of brand.
Hmm. Interesting, Mr. Dan. You focuses on brand clarity, the idea that marketing can succeed if the brand itself is confused. If your brand's purpose, positioning, or promise is fuzzy, Can any amount of clever advertising actually fix it?
I don't believe so. No, I think that it tends to heap on additional layers of confusion to the degree that it would be. We could start to call it clutter. That to me, clutter is the enemy of clarity. And when you see a brand that has lost its way, or they don't know how to read the room, or they've lost some sense of who they were, that got them to the point of success to begin with. When they start adding layer and layer of marketing and advertising on top of a broken brand, it ends up creating clutter, and all of a sudden you have to make your way through all the clutter, and just to get back to where you originally started. And the only way you're going to get through clutter is with clarity. And so I think that's really that's the driving force behind the kind of work that Brand Shepherd does. That we're working with brands every day who are at different points of clarity. Some of them have great clarity and they just want more. They've tasted success and they want more of it, and their shareholders
Mhm.
want more of it. So we're doing all kinds of work, but it all centers around the idea that thriving brands have clarity about their people, presence, and purpose. Cluttered brands are struggling and they're wayward. They don't know what they don't know.
Very well said, Mr. Dan. Very well said indeed. You develop the vibe, tribe, and why framework. Before you spend another dollar on marketing, can you articulate what is your brand's vibe, the feeling it creates, who is your tribe, the people it serves, and why does it exist beyond making money?
Yeah, so this is really at the core of every single brand that exists at any stage and of any size. When we think of any brand or business, any type of brand, we can feel what that brand is innately. We have a sense from our experiences with it, from perhaps the services or products, be they digital or tangible, the types of services that go with those products, or maybe it's a service altogether. But we feel it. We know what it is. And over in my world, we would call that things like brand positioning, brand voice, brand market position, brand value, things like that. And that's all well and good, but in its simplest form, it's how the brand is felt, and from those feelings, it creates a reputation. Once you have a shared, agreed upon experience and feeling, that becomes a brand reputation. Now, there is some debate on how and when brand reputation comes to be. I kind of swim upstream on this. Most people would say that brand reputation strictly comes from customers. I disagree with that. I don't think that that's the case, because there has to be something for customers to react to begin with. And so the reputation is always coming from brand first. And yes, it is coming from reputation as people react to it, but something has to exist in order for people to react to it. So that's your brand vibe. That's the thing that people are reacting to, how they feel about your brand, what it feels like. And it could be any number of things: what it looks like, what it smells like, what it sounds like, how it feels, the quality of materials, the quality of the services, things like that, how it elevates your life. Does it create a sense of belonging? Are you proud to be associated with this brand? Those types of things go into your brand vibe. Now, the tribe is kind of a double edged sword. The tribe is the specific type of people that your brand best suits, and your most loyal customer types. These are the people who are very proud to be associated with your brand. They find some kind of value to their life, their work, their family. Some part of their life is elevated and it gets tremendous value from your brand. So that's your tribe, and it could be one particular type of people group, could be, I don't know, 2 or 3 different types of people groups. It depends on the size of the brand and what you offer. But ultimately, it comes down to 3 things within tribe, and that's your people's goals, motivations, and blind spots. Notice I did not get into demographics.
Mhm.
Demographics are still relevant and they help define it, but I think we're at a point where we're beyond demographics, um, to a certain degree. And what really unites people behind brands is goals, motivations, and blind spots. So once you get those three things in order, it's really easy to define what your brand's tribe is. Now, when I talk about why, I'm of course evoking or giving a nod to Simon Sinek's "Start with Why" TEDx speech from years ago.
Mhm.
And while it's a great speech, I agree with everything from it. It really awakened something deep within me when I first heard him give that talk. Since then, I believe that the whole why thing has become something that's far more complex than it was intended to be. I think that this is evidenced by the fact that when I first started asking brand stakeholders what their brand why was, it created all this anxiety, and everyone was doing this introspective navel gazing and trying to figure out, ooh, what's our deep meaning and all this stuff. And ultimately, it came down to just a simple epiphany one day when I realized that your brand's why is just simply the problem or challenge your brand set out to solve to begin with. Hard stop. That's it. It's the challenge or problem that your brand solves or set out to solve when it began. It's incredibly simple. That's why you exist. Now, branching out from that, we can get into all kinds of territory, and I would steer that territory to be more emotional because we as humans are emotional beings. I think that in the years to come, we're going to be tapped more and more into our emotions as AI becomes more and more of a factor. And it's those emotion, those human emotion ties to brands, to the experiences that we have that link vibe with tribe. So why kind of comes in as the connective tissue between vibe and tribe and helps tie it all together. But if you know about Gestalt theory with the sum, what is it? Sum is greater than the whole of its parts. So vibe, tribe, and why work together to create a whole brand, and that's the driving force behind it.
So done. Most companies treat branding as one of the time exercise, a logo, a website, a mission statement, and then move on real work. But if the brand is the foundation and the marketing is the house built on it, how much time do you actually spend inspecting the foundation versus painting the walls?
That's a great question and equally great analogy. The I mean, to carry on with your home analogy, a neglected home is a home full of problems. And so if you just live in your home and you don't do anything with maintenance, you're not proactive in how that home performs, especially with the different seasons that come along. It's gonna take some damage and it's gonna fall apart. So I like to think of a brand uh, as both an internal and external entity because while there's a lot of attention, and rightfully so, a lot of attention paid to what the brand does on its external mission to communicate to that tribe of people that we call customers. I think that what I'm seeing is Vibe Tribe and Y is beginning to get a lot of traction with HRs, which HR departments, because it turns out that a brand's tribe is also its talent, its people. And when we start talking about a brand's people and the people that want to belong to that brand, champion that brand, grow that brand, we have to talk about the talent that the humans that make that happen. And so what I've found fascinating is that here in the last couple of years, the same things that we use and talk about when we talk about Vibe Tribe and Why in relation to customers, it doesn't take very much effort to turn that around and talk and use the same kinds of language with regard to talent. And of course, talent, if that's the case, then brand is internal as much as it is external because we've all been exposed to a brand that has a great external face, but either through the news or people we know or maybe on LinkedIn or something like that, we learn that this brand is not who it says it is on the inside. That inside the walls of that brand, it's toxic, it's a mess, it's not led well, people are greedy, whatever, and the brand falls apart from within. Uh, so the brand has to be authentic, and the only way authenticity happens is if you have the integrity to be who you are internally that you say externally. So I think, to answer your question, I think that we have to have a shift in terms of thinking about brand as just an external thing and start thinking about brand as an internal thing. How do we talk to each other? How are decisions made? Who do we hire and why? Are they a good culture fit? What is our culture? That's your brand's vibe. And so brand becomes something that's too big to ignore. And if you are ignoring it, you're in trouble because you have a neglected house and that thing's going to topple.
Beautifully articulated, Mr. Dan. And tell us, you suggest that marketing failure is often not marketing fault. That means the problem lives somewhere else in the organization, in leadership, in product, in operations, in culture. If you could point to one department or decision that makes the marketing team's job impossible, what would it be?
Well, I would say that every time that we do a Vibe Tribe and Why project, we always start with the C-suite leadership or the owners of a brand. And here's the thing, here's what happens every single time. We gather the decision makers, the leaders of the brand, and we gather everyone together, whether it's it's an online meeting, a video meeting, whatever, or sometimes it's in person. And we start asking these questions. We start doing our Q&A with Vibe Tribe and Y session. And what we learn, and I say this with a smile on my face because it's not malicious. I need to emphasize this and preface this. It is not malicious. But what I see time and time again is that your leaders in every single facet of the business do not have clarity and agreement on the different parts that make up the brand. That's the number one challenge. That's the number one challenge that comes up over and over again. Um, the CEO thinks about the brand, its purpose, its presence, and its people, its customers totally differently than the CMO. And the CMO thinks totally differently than the CIO and the C whatever O. The C suite, they're all not wrong per se, but what Vibe Tribe and Y does over and over again and has for over a decade now is it creates cohesion and agreement, which gives birth to clarity about exactly where are we going. It acts kind of like a flashlight on the path, because for brands that struggle when they don't have clarity on these things, you've got this, the operations are going in a different direction than marketing, and sales are going in a different direction than everything else, and talent is not aligned and things like that, and so you end up with a very wayward, cluttered brand. And so I think it all starts with the leadership. It starts there and it trickles down to everyone else.
Very well said, Mr. Don. And leadership often demands marketing move the needle while striving it for strategic clarity, budget, and authority. If your
Yeah.
CEO or board had to spend 1 week in the marketing department shoes, what would they finally understand about why results are not happening?
They would first of all discover that social media is almost irrelevant. Social media is the shiny object that everyone wants to still look to, even though its relevance in the conversation dropped, gosh, probably 2 years ago, and it's been a spiraling ever since then. Reach is 100% pay to play, and even then, the people you're quote unquote reaching are usually low value, unless you have a brand that is highly transactional with a very low barrier to entry, like super low cost. um, you know that's very well suited to low value interactions, and that's even assuming that you're reaching humans. A lot of these companies are still putting you in front of bots, and that's only going to get worse with AI agents. So I think a C-suite person would finally understand that the shiny object of social media just isn't very shiny. That the it's water under the bridge at this point. And maybe a secondary point, because it's related, is that email has become the champion again. That if you have someone who I'll take I'll take a list of 50 people who have opted in and want my brand's emails over 10,000 people on a social media post any day of the week. I'll convert more sales through that 50 person list than a 10,000 like post.
True, it's true, Mr. Dan. Totally agree with you. The Tribe framework is about knowing exactly who you serve. Most brands are terrified of excluding anyone, so they try to appeal to everyone and end up appealing to no one. Who are you willing to lose in order to truly serve the people who matter?
Boy, that's a really hot topic right now because you're going to get me in trouble here. But this is the fallacy of inclusion. This is the fallacy. Inclusion was a good idea in words, and then like once you applied 1% of reality to inclusion ideology, it falls apart because it exists. It's an ideology that has no depth to it and is completely immune to reality. And here's what I mean by that. Exactly what you just said a minute ago, which is when you try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. A mentor of mine used to tell me the same thing in a different way. She would say, if everything's important, then nothing's important. If you try to include everyone, then you've included no one. When we even see this, when we interact with a brand that's trying to appeal to everyone, they come across as generic. That is the very definition of generic. So in order to be a successful brand, you have to be exclusionary. You have to at least say, we are for this. This is who our brand is for. And you can do that in 12 dozen different ways. But the point is, if you want your brand to succeed, if you want it to thrive, you have to be very comfortable with the idea of excluding some people and embracing your tribe and getting rid of this nonsense about inclusion because it doesn't work. Every time it's tried, it fails.
Definitely, people embrace your tribe and be successful to it.
Yes.
So, to wrap up our discussion for today, Mr. Dan, if your marketing disappeared tomorrow, would you the best customers even notice? Would they miss you? Would they seek you out? The answer to that question is the only metric of what matters, and it was nothing to do with the click through rates.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've experienced that with Brand Shepherd. Most of our business through our 20 years, like I said at the very beginning, we've been around for 20 years, and we have spent very, very little money on marketing through these 20 years. I mean, it's under $5,000 over 20 years on marketing, and none of it has resulted in any sales. It has to do with the reputation that we have and the people we serve.
Certainly, and Mr. Dan, I'm inviting you again to be my part of my entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship mindset or entrepreneurship 101, and let's talk about entrepreneurship mindset. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your projects that you want to promote on Abstract Asset?
I would say head over to brandshepherd.com and you'll learn about what we're doing. You'll learn more about Vibe Tribe and why and how it can possibly help your brand.
Yeah, definitely. So, Mr. Dan, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. It's been a great pleasure.
Likewise. More to come, people. See you soon.